assistive technology. As a matter of fact, I volunteered many years ago on the island of St. Lucia, and I taught assistive technology. I've really enjoyed teaching that. What Tell us all about teaching assistive technology.
At first, I started off with teaching while I was living in Minnesota. I got into teaching through a program called I Can Connect. It is through the National Deaf Blind Equipment Distribution Program, which is partnered with Perkins School for the Blind. They have a program there in Minnesota, at many other states too. So I got started through that, and I had my first couple of deaf blind students, and I really, really enjoyed the flexibility and not like actually being confined to one spot. Like, my office was pretty much out of my laptop and my iPad and my phone, and I can do whatever I want wherever I wanted. Meet with my students at their local training center in Minneapolis. They'd all come over there, and I'd get to borrow a room to do an assessment and bring them their equipment to their house and train them again, and go about my business and live my life still, and that's how it all started. And then I came back to Massachusetts, and I started teaching through a different organization. And well, that place is more stationary, and the students would come to me for training. And it's a variety of skill sets and attitudes and things like that.
I mean, that's wonderful. So good, Casper. I mean, I'm a pretty unusual person. I have a lot of unusual. I'm a character. You don't know me yet, but once you scroll through my menu of all the episodes I've done, I've had a lot of interesting conversations from around the world. I've spoken to someone who is now even a retired prison guard. So I've spoken to almost everyone from around the world, actually in different capacities, and students, including myself, have said some pretty crazy stuff. What was
Oh,
Holy moly! What was the craziest thing? Let's start with what was the funniest student? What was the funniest thing that a student said? I mean, did you ever have a student who wanted to sing Snoop Dogg for you?
oh, no students wanted to sing Snoop Dogg. My students were pretty much like middle age and high, like older. It was a much, an older population. Um, but I had some really interesting encounters over the period of time during teaching. Um, but when you're dealing with a lot of personalities, that's what's going to happen to you. So you can expect that to happen. Everything is not going to be like super duper perfect.
Well, so what is a something specific that happened? What do you think?
A guy that I was once teaching got mad at me because he thought I wasn't paying attention to him when he was not even talking about why he was there for training. Like, what did he want to do? Like, I asked him, like, what did you want me to teach you? How do you need me to help you? And he got mad at me, and then he started complaining to everybody in the higher ups at the organization. The guy even ran over to the State House on Beacon Hill to complain about me at the organization. And that guy ended up making me kind of famous from over there, because
Yeah,
now
good.
the
Yeah.
State House wanted to find out what this organization was so that they could support him because of complaining about me.
Well, good. Well, well, that's a great student then. If they're willing to complain about you so much that you get more business, yeah, yeah. I've had a couple characters on this podcast. I'm not going to get into personalities, but I've had a couple characters who have, pretended to complain about my show or say mean things about me. You know what? You know what I have to say about that? I appreciate that because you know what? If you
You just let
criticize
other people know about you.
it, you're just making me more powerful. You're just making my show even better.
I
You know,
agree.
it's so that's actually, one of the deepest things that anyone has ever said about being bullied or harassed or anything or discriminated against in the deepest level of philosophy, and I certainly don't believe it 100%, but to some degree, I get the argument that actually when someone is discriminating against you, it's actually serves as a complementary matter for you because then
Hmm.
you're able to simply motivate yourself more. So it kind of shows why people shouldn't discriminate. But then again, I've had the conversation about why in America why we face so much discrimination. And I'll tell you, Caspher, I think it's a very simple reason. Because for people to have lived so long as we have on Earth, we've had to be able to discriminate. We've had to be able to tell the difference between people and to be able to
Yeah.
make differences to survive. So until we come to a point in society where there is no need to be able to tell the difference between things, then we'll always have this problem of discrimination, I think. Personally, I think in the United States, I think there's a lot of discrimination. I think there's a lot of problems. I've done a lot of traveling, by the way. I've been to France 3 times because actually my second language is French. But by the way, what about you? Where overseas have you been?
Unfortunately, I have only been overseas maybe twice, and I was really, really young, and I have no recollection of that.
I see. Where did you
Yeah,
go?
I went to Port-au-Prince, Haiti, my mom's birthplace.
Oh, okay. Okay, well that's good. So then you speak French.
I wish I could speak French fluently, but I can't. It sucks. I can speak Haitian Creole better than French.
Yeah, yeah, where they throw in some of the languages of West Africa, like some of the Nigerian language,
Yes.
so they mix some Fulani, some Yoruba with the French. Yeah, yeah, I've heard it before.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
they put like a different they have like an accent. Yeah, I can understand it. I understand a lot. I mean, I understand everything that French people say, but yeah, if they speak the Creolese language, I get a lot, not all of it, but I get a fair bit of it. Yeah, it's it's
Mm.
it's interesting to study the combination of those languages. Yeah, a lot of the islands did that. They mixed their local languages with French or with English. That's quite common. Oh,
Hmm.
well, that's interesting. Um, so yeah. Yeah, Haiti. I've never been there, but I've heard it seems like a very interesting place, along with a very troubling place. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Very
um,
much so.
I see. I see. Um, well, that is all very interesting. So, all right, we got a crazy student who complained about you, and then that's actually helpful. And then what about just some really funny? I mean, students say just the funniest things. Um, so so
Oh
there was.
man.
Well, let me give you a funny one. Let me give you a fun. So I was teaching this one student from country X somewhere in the universe. And this student of mine, he comes almost every day. He's a bit odd, a bit of a character. So
Yeah.
we were going over nicknames. How Robert is Bob because Rob rhymes with Bob, and Will Bill because Bill, that whole thing. And there's a whole history behind why they were doing it. Um, and then, and then we got to my name, and then he says, "So what would you say for Aaron?" I said, "Well, Aaron doesn't really have a nickname." Um, and then he says, "Well, of course you can have a nickname." He says, "You can be Run Run." He said.
Run, run.
Yeah, short for Aaron.
Uh-huh.
So apparently that works. But yeah, I mean, a lot of other countries don't really do that, like the nicknames, like the shortened names. Um, the other thing that's interesting is the middle initials and middle names. That's an Americanism, an American thing. A lot of other countries don't do middle initials. They just John Smith. That's just who you are. And
Yeah.
yeah. What about you? Something really funny that a student said to you?
Oh my gosh, I've heard so many funny things I can't even remember. um, like a lot of really hilarious things. I'm trying to think. I guess there was a guy who was trying to listen for something, and I guess he got confused with chickpeas and thought it was chicken piss.
Yeah,
And that was funny. I was laughing so much. And it's like every time I heard the guy talking, I remember what he told me about. And someone told him, look for chickpeas. And he goes, what? Chicken piss? And they're like, no.
yeah. But that's a funny word in English, though. Chickpeas. It sounds kind of strange. So
Yeah.
I can understand. Yeah, and I mean, was English his first language?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Well, still, that's interesting. And a lot of blind people around the world like to tell me about their city where they're living and what the conditions are. So, what can you tell me about maybe living near Boston? How is it for blind people in that city? What can you tell me?
Living in Boston, near Boston, is like, it's a very busy city. Well, not now, but before all of this happened, people were out and about heavily. The only way you'll find a blind or visually impaired person walking around freely is if they have gone that route several times. Um, you don't find a lot of us out there just out and about like everyone else. There has to be some sort of reason why they're out. You know, but it's nice to run into someone else who is blind or visually impaired, going out doing things and living their life. You know.
Okay, well, good, good. So do you feel that probably Boston is a pretty good city for blind people overall? I mean, nowhere is perfect, but you think it's pretty good? What do you think?
Personally, I think Minneapolis has a better grid-like structure
Hmm.
for a blind person to navigate efficiently as opposed to Boston. The map, like the map of the city, is pretty much like somebody regurgitated on it. Everything is all scattered and crisscrossed all over the place.
Right, right.
So, well, yeah,
But that reminds me of living in England, and in England that's how the roads are too. Everything is kind of scattered around and you have to sort of find your way. It's less gridded and less organized. So
yeah.
that's how it is in a lot of little English towns, which is why they call your part of the country New England. And
Mm-hmm.
I was up there a few years ago, family situation up there a few years ago, and yeah, it reminded me of England. And then I remembered, oh yeah, that's why they call it New England, because it is. The environment's similar to England. It looks like England. The houses look like England. You know, stuff like that.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's very very interesting. Minneapolis, I've never been to. That's in Minnesota. I've
Yep.
only heard good things. Are you this name I can name drop because he's really cool about it. Are you an illegally sighted fan, by the way? On
Legal.
illegally sighted on YouTube?
Oh no, no.
Yeah, he's a blind he's been on my podcast before. He does a great job. He's a YouTuber. He does a lot with IT and video games, and he's done a lot of videos about that subject. So yeah.
I'd have to check this out.
Or yeah, he's super famous. Or listen to my episode that I recorded with him by
Okay.
going through my list. Well, is there any final hope or final dream that you want to tell our listeners? We've been speaking for about 45 minutes. We've covered a lot in this episode. Um,
Yes.
so, is there any final dream or final story you want to tell to really, really, for our listeners to kind of bring it full circle? Hmm.
Okay. For a full circle, I want to make this a bit more fun. Like, I want to make this fun. Like, end this off
What you
as
wait a
you
minute.
know.
Wait a minute. You haven't had fun so far?
Oh, I have. I just want to
Oh,
keep it like that all the way